The movie opens with Bacon, who is peddling stolen goods on the street. He's skilled at convincing people to buy from him without hesitation. Ed, his partner in crime, is posing as a potential buyer. Suddenly, Ed shouts a warning to Bacon that the cops are on their way, so they both make a hasty exit. Ed's true expertise lies in cards and card games. He enters a business and approaches two men, Tom, who is currently negotiating with Nick for a stolen stereo. Tom seems to grow weary of Nick's bargaining and assures him it's the deal of a lifetime. Nick gives in to his fear of losing and reluctantly buys the item at the agreed price. He then takes out a large stack of money from his pocket and counts out 200 of it, barely making a dent. They tease Nick for being as tight as a duck, and Tom is portrayed as the group's entrepreneur. After that, Ed and Bacon enter a chef's kitchen. Soap, the chef, is the fourth member of the crew. He's given this nickname because of his commitment to staying away from any illegal activities. He takes pride in his profession, and even more so in the fact that it's completely legal. Soap takes out a wad of cash, totaling 25 grand. The rest of the team contributes the same amount, bringing the total to 100,000. Ed leaves the kitchen, declaring it's time to contact Harry, also known as the businessman, who decides who can and cannot participate in underground poker games. Over the phone, Harry asks Ed if he has the 100,000 and informs him that if they say yes, they're in, and promptly hangs up. Harry then asks his right-hand man, Barry, about Eddie's condition. According to Barry, Eddie is a thief. Barry is Harry's top guy, known as the Baptist. He's responsible for ensuring the business's administrative side runs smoothly, which essentially means making sure everyone pays their dues to Harry, often through force. He warns Harry that Ed is a card wizard, suggesting they keep a close eye on him. All the guys gather at Ed's place. Ed carefully counts the money to make sure they have the full 100,000. Bacon tells Tom that he can always hear his neighbors through the walls, and that they rob drug dealers. At a new location, we meet the stoners who own a farm. Winston and Willie are the leaders. Winston asks Charles why they have the cage if they don't keep it locked, when another housemate is let in through the front door. Charles mumbles an explanation, saying it's just Willie, and that he lives there. Winston rolls his eyes and points out he opened the door before realizing it was Willie. Winston gets angry and insists on keeping the cage shut. Willie is followed by a girl named Gloria who is clearly high. Then we meet Big Chris, Harry's hired muscle. Little Chris, his son and apprentice, accompanies him on business tasks. Barry confirms to Harry that Ed seems to have acquired the 400,000, and mentions that Ed's father owns a pub, implying that Harry can take over the bar smoothly if something goes wrong. Harry changes the subject, instructing Barry to acquire the vintage muskets he's had his eye on before they go up for auction. Now Barry assigns the task of stealing the muskets to Gary and Dean, known as Dumb and Dumber. Ed arrives with a sack containing all of his crew's money. It's his first meeting with Harry on the night of the big poker game. He introduces himself to the other players and the dealer, recalling them from his card-playing days. Meanwhile, since the other boys aren't allowed at the event, they gather at a nearby tavern called Samoan Joe's. Dumb and Dumber step out of the house with muskets drawn. They break in, but it's clear they don't have a clear plan. Gary binds the owners and demands to know where the money is kept. Dean approaches with the muskets in his hands, claiming that these people are poor. Then an old-timer, Adam Noah, comes out and attempts to shoot them, but narrowly misses. As the poker game unfolds, Harry cheats, with Barry watching through a hidden camera. He raises the stakes, which Ed can't match, leaving him unable to continue. Harry offers to lend him the extra money, and Ed reluctantly agrees, but ultimately loses the hand. Harry insists that the money be repaid in less than a week. Ed leaves and vomits at the realization of the trouble he's gotten himself into. When he reaches the pub, he delivers the bad news to the guys. In the midst of their discussion, they mention that if they don't pay on time, Harry will start cutting fingers. The intercom buzzes at the stoner's residence. Willie ignores Wisdom's reminder to use the cage and simply opens the door, telling him to listen to chill, as it's just Plank coming in. Plank is there to make a purchase. Plank is seen passing on information about the stoners to a man named Dog, who leads Jack and his gang, residing next door to Ed. He tells him he's been buying for years, and they're an easy target for thieves. He mentions their security gate is never locked. We see the other men overhearing this conversation, learning of the entire scheme. Big Chris and Little Chris attend a meeting with Harry, who informs them about the boys, who owe $500,000. The lads gather and Ed reveals his new plan for getting Harry's money, suggesting they wait until the neighbors rob these suppliers, and then rob them. Ed asks Tom to speak with Nick the Bubble about selling the goods for money once they've stolen them. When Tom meets Nick, he confirms he knows Rory Breaker, who will be interested in purchasing high-quality merchandise from them. He only needs a sample. Then Tom inquires about acquiring a pair of firearms. To acquire the guns, Barry meets with Dumb and Dumber. When he asks about the two old-looking muskets, they admit they've sold them. Barry threatens them, stating he'll kill them if they don't retrieve them. It turns out Nick bought the muskets, which he then sold to Tom. Tom jokes about the firearms' appearance, suggesting they lack criminal credibility. Big Chris informs Ed's father, played by Sting for some reason. Sting is irritated because Harry has his eye on his bar and wants to buy it from him. Big Chris informs him about Ed's $500,000 debt, which he must repay to Harry within 3 days. Meanwhile, Bacon overhears the neighbors returning to the apartment after the robbery to unload everything. The neighbors have arrived at the Stoners' house to carry out the robbery. Plank buzzes the intercom asking for Willie. Charlie falsely claims Willie isn't home, though we see William and Winston counting money. Plank insists on being let in, citing a pursuit of a large sum of money. This time, Winston opposes letting Plank in, but Willie convinces him. When Plank enters, he finds the gate closed for the first time. Thinking quickly, Plank seizes Charles, threatening him with a gun to unlock the gate, causing Charles to pass out. Plank and the crew shout and move to intervene. They clash while trying to get the keys from an unconscious Charles when they approach the door. Tempers flare as the gate remains closed. Winston and the other Stoners realize they're almost there. They use a small air pistol to shoot at the neighbors through a small hatch. It seems to do little more than irritate them. The thugs then shoot off Charles' toes. Winston tells Willie he's in serious trouble and urges him to come up with a solution. When the goons finally breach the fence, they seize Winston and demand to know where they've stashed the money. Winston insists it's at the back where Willie is hiding. Willie stands there, gripping a machete, but it doesn't work out as planned, and he ends up getting killed. The goons find the merchandise and cash in the back of the house. While loading everything into the van, they come across a traffic warden about to ticket them. They knock him out and load him into the van with the rest of the loot. One of the guys checks on Willie to confirm he's really dead. Suddenly, Gloria emerges seemingly out of nowhere. She'd been there the whole time, fully engrossed in the couch. She pulls out a machine gun and starts firing. Unfortunately, she only manages to land a couple of shots and fails to kill Dog and Planks. They knock her out once she's out of bullets and no longer a threat. Meanwhile, the boys break into their next-door neighbor's apartment to set their trap. When the neighbors return, the guys leap from their hiding spots and get down to business. They quickly free the neighbors and drive up to their parking spot to load their car. At this point, they discover some unexpected bags. Eventually, they return to stash everything in their apartment for safekeeping, according to the parking officer. Tom instructs Nick to sell the stolen goods as quickly as possible. Nick immediately approaches Mr. Rory Breaker, seeking a second evaluation of the merchandise's quality. Nick then walks away, stating he'll call him later. Mr. Breaker soon learns his supplier has been robbed. It turns out the Stoners are working for him. The boys are now trying to resell the stolen merchandise to its rightful owner. The men believe it's time to celebrate, thinking their hard times are over. Mr. Breaker asks to meet Nick to find out who the fools are trying to sell him the goods. The neighbors are frantically trying to figure out who robbed them, but none of them can figure it out. Dog becomes furious and starts berating his lackeys. In the chaos, Plank's head bursts through the wall, revealing a slew of recording devices. Dumb and Dumber, now seeking to reclaim their muskets, call Nick and insist they must have them back. Nick warns them he can't because they've already been sold to someone else, and they'll likely never see those people again. He becomes frustrated and simply hangs up on them. They deliver the grim news to Barry, who brushes it off, insisting they must retrieve the guns. Harry then takes the phone from Barry, emphasizing that it's in their best interests, rallying their spirits. The two men call Nick again to find out who he had sold to. Mr. Breaker and his henchmen rush to Ed's apartment fully armed, while the boys are en route to Ed's place at the same time. When Mr. Breaker arrives, Planks is inside, visibly bewildered and uncertain of what's happening, and he starts shooting. This leads to a classic shootout. Dog quietly takes the muskets and bags of money, hearing the gunfire from the other room. He then encounters Big Chris, dispatched to Ed's by Harry, delivering a message about their remaining time to pay. Big Chris seizes all the loot and punctuates the encounter with a small headbutt. Dumb and Dumber witness it all, waiting outside for the muskets to be returned. Ed's house has been reduced to ruins. Fortunately, Winston survives. He speeds away with as much loot as he can carry and nearly collides with the boys who've just arrived. When they return, they realize they're in much deeper trouble. There are lifeless bodies strewn about, and to make matters worse, the money and all the goods have been stolen. Big Chris brings everything, including the firearms, to Harry and informs him that the boys had them. Next, Dumb and Dumber see Big Chris leave the building outside Harry's house. They're plotting their strategy to retrieve the guns and enter the building, unaware of the dynamic between Barry and Harry. Ed calls Harry, but before he can share the bad news, Harry interjects, saying he got the money and doesn't care how Ed and the boys obtained it. However, he's concerned about how the firearms ended up with them. He instructs them to meet him in his office immediately to clear things up. Dean enters Harry's office after the call, clutching the gun. Harry is cleaning the musket, and shots ring out. Hearing the gunfire, Gary decides to charge in, guns blazing. Suddenly, he's attacked from behind with an axe. He spins around and realizes the assailant is Barry. When Big Chris returns to his car, Dog is in the back, holding a knife to his son's throat, demanding his money back. Big Chris reveals the money is in the office and drives toward Harry's office building. Ed and Tom arrive at Harry's place, and upon entering his office, they find everyone dead, including Harry. Ed decides to take the money bags, and they decide to make their escape. Tom assures Ed he'll catch up. Ed gets in the car, and the other boys are waiting for him. When they ask what's happening, Ed explains that Harry is no longer alive, so there's no more dead. Big Chris then rams his car into their rear. He steps out and starts slamming the car door into Dog's head in a frenzy. He approaches the men's car and, upon opening the door, sees they have the cash. He takes the bags and returns to Harry's office. When Big Chris enters the room, he encounters Tom, who is holding the muskets. They choose not to engage with each other. Big Chris walks off with a bag full of cash, while Tom has all the guns. When the police arrive, they arrest everyone. Sting is anxious to know if the boys are safe, and Ed exits the police station. Ed believes they are safe since everyone else is dead. We then see the boys gathering in the bar. Tom briefs them on what transpired at the police station. Due to the traffic warden identifying the neighbors among the deceased, the lads are no longer considered suspects. The only loose end in the case is the muskets. So they assign Tom the task of disposing of them as quickly as possible. Tom walks away and heads toward a bridge, where he plans to discard the firearms into the river. Big Chris enters the pub and drops a bag on the table in front of the boys. He thanks them and warns them not to look for him, then leaves. Except for a pistol magazine, the bag appears empty. They assume it's nothing, until they find a page with information about the muskets, indicating they're valued between $200,000 to $300,000 each. The boys quickly try to call Tom. Meanwhile, Tom is attempting to toss the firearms off the bridge, but at the same time, his phone is in his mouth and ringing. Thank you for staying till the end. Your support on my channel would mean a lot. As always, catch you in the next one.